This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
Welcome back to the Off the Break Podcast, your podcast dedicated to current movie theater news, operations, and insights from the people that book the movies. I'm Ken, and with me as always are Cody and Kyle.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
This is a special edition podcast.
Yes.
Is that what we're calling it?
Special edition, Batman edition.
The Batman.
Yeah,
edition.
the Batman.
The
Let's be
premier
very
Batman
specific
edition
here.
Possibly one of the best Batman movies.
ever
we've ever seen.
created.
We're gonna,
Am I right, Ken?
we're gonna dig into it in deep
Dark details.
dark spoiler alert details, and then
So
I'm gonna
many
try
spoilers.
to I'm
Yep.
gonna try to add in my flourish to keep myself interested, not for either of you, just because I'm still waiting for the credits to end.
Yeah. So as we hinted,
They say they're still running.
as we hinted last week, Ken didn't really much appreciate the Batmans. Kyle and I loved it.
Now that I finally got to see it with the rest of the world,
Yeah.
I thoroughly loved it. So good.
Guess what, everyone? Big spoiler alert. Kyle didn't have to stay to the end of the credits.
No. So last week's episode, I was saying to Cody and Ken that there's no way that I can't leave before like the final end credits scene because I'll have a bunch of buddies and they'll want to see it. And Cody and Ken were trying to warn me that like it's very anticlimactic and not even worth waiting throughout all the credits, to which I was like, doesn't matter. My friends will still want to wait and see what it is, so I'll just let them have that experience. But then one of my buddies, once the credits starts rolling, he watched it. It was his second viewing, and he already saw what the end credits was. So he just motioned to everyone, was like, "Hey guys, we can leave now. Like the after credit scene is completely worthless." And they were like, "Oh well, okay. I guess we'll listen to you." And I didn't say a word. I didn't bring up the end credit scene at all because I wanted that to be experience for them. But instead, they just were like, "Okay, I guess we'll listen." And this whole time, they probably would have listened to me, and I am very upset.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be. No, you got out of it. You were good to get out of it.
Yeah, apparently it was just URL for
No,
what?
It's just the computer, the black with the green computer type, and it's like because the Riddler would sometimes have a computer message. There's a sequence where he's talking to Batman over like computer, old school.
Part of one of his riddles and questions that he was doing.
All it says, it's like it beeps a couple times, and then the line comes out like he's typing and says goodbye.
Okay, top 5 Batman movie villains of all time. Number 5, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Number 4, Tom Hardy. Number 3.
You don't even. You can't. You got to say what their character is.
No. Number 3, Jack Nicholson. Number 2, Dan DeVito. Number 1, Heath Ledger. All right, continue.
Paul Dano can't be on that list as the Riddler?
Riddle me this.
He doesn't even say that iconic line. That's said by somebody else.
I don't even know,
I know
that.
Jim Carrey,
well,
who was not in the top 5 because the top 5 was so solid.
A Jim Carrey a better Riddler than this Riddler for you?
Anyone was a better Riddler for me than Paul Dano.
No, I have to disagree. Paul
Him and
Dano
his
was
giant-
awesome as the Riddler.
Giant head.
I really enjoyed this portrayal of him kind of being a serial killer that was just an average man at the same time, but he was just so smart and calculative that he was always one step ahead of Batman and Gordon, despite...
Top 5 Alfreds in Batman movie history. Number 5, Andy Serkis.
Okay.
Number
Ooh, he made his
4,
top
Jeremy
5.
Irons. Number 3, Michael Caine. Number 2, Michael Gough. Number 1, also Michael Gough.
I was going to say, has there actually been that many Alfreds?
There have been a lot of Alfreds.
There's
I
been
guess
a
there's
lot.
been an Alfred for every
and
Batman.
voiceover Alfreds, and there's been so many Alfreds. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
top 5 is the Alfred from Batman 1 and Batman Returns. And then
He went through the highs and,
he
the
also
lows.
he served 3 different Batmans.
Right, yeah. Val Kilmer and Keaton and Clooney.
George Clooney. So
Okay,
Yeah.
the George Clooney Batman. That's the Alfred you're talking about.
I'm
All
okay
three.
with
He's-
okay with
he
that
was in
list.
4. He was in
Yeah,
4.
he was
Batman
super
movies.
old in the Clooney one.
No, he was. Yeah, that's why he didn't get a nod in the Clooney one. He was much better in the Val Kilmer one, just because I didn't feel like he was going to drop dead at any moment.
Right.
All right,
Is
continue.
he the greatest Batman character for you since he spanned 3 Batmans?
4 Batmans. We just said 4.
4. Okay.
And no,
4 Batman movies.
Batman is the greatest
yeah,
Batman character.
but
Yeah.
no.
Okay, continue your
Okay.
conversation.
But no, that's what I liked about this story is that it was a detective story where the overarching villain had such an eerie presence that was felt throughout Gotham, no matter what the circumstances were. And that's what the movie was set on delivering. They were trying to make it more of a detective noir type story. This Batman may not be as physical looking, but he's just menacing through the mask and through the way he utilizes Gotham to bring out his vengeance. And I thought it was really impressive and was really well done how they handled not only those elements but also those genres and the look of Gotham to really highlight that tone that it was setting.
I think I liked the look of Gotham in this. It really had that gothic feel, an architecture feel,
modern
to it.
Gothic type. Yeah.
Which being, I think, filmed in Glasgow helps with that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it still felt like a big city, but more true to a different university.
It felt more like a character and got its point across about how horrible of a place it is than I'd say Joker did, the Joker movie from a few years ago, which was really trying to have that be important throughout its story. But I would say Batman almost did it better, or the Batman almost did it better here.
I did really like Paul Dano's character, not when they unveiled him, like I said in the podcast last week. I liked him better with the mask on. I thought he was more menacing and everything. I don't know, but I did like how he was one step ahead, how he felt like a camaraderie with the Batman, and he was leading him and using him as this tool, but hoping that they would bond at the end. It was way more psychological, just all the elements in this film.
I guess I wasn't really expecting parallels to be happening between Batman and Riddler, because part of this arc and the reasons why the Riddler's mission is to get rid of all the corrupted elites of Gotham, whether they be gangsters or just government officials, and how it really ties in with him growing up as an orphan, how Riddler grew up as an orphan versus how Bruce Wayne grew up as an orphan. I thought those really came to play much more effectively than I imagined it, because towards it's about 2/3 of the way into the movie where that stuff really starts to become a fixture in the story, and I was a little skeptical at first, but then once we get into the interrogation scene with Riddler and Batman and it really starts to tie it all together, that's where I just was hooked with that element. I was like, oh, okay, this is fantastic.
Agreed. I like that element a lot. I know that for Ken and I was a little disappointed that Riddler, and surprised that Riddler didn't know who Batman was.
I liked it.
Really?
I did.
I mean, I liked it because it kept his anonymity and it kept him being able to be the Batman moving forward. But he was so smart, had so many things pegged. How could you? All the villains, I think, throughout the series have always kind of figured out Bruce Wayne as Batman.
Sure.
In some iteration, and so it was really surprising that this super smart character wasn't able to figure that out, or didn't see that.
I just think in that moment, it really gives the audience another reason to hold their breath, even though this movie already was doing that so well. And it just, it does a really good job at playing mind tricks with the audience, to where at first you're thinking, oh, he definitely knows that Bruce Wayne's Batman. But then when you hear what Riddler is saying about Bruce Wayne and Batman and how he's kind of calling them different people, then you're thinking, okay, he doesn't actually know. But that was a really clever way to
I
trick
thought
us.
he knew the whole time, and he was still protecting the Batman
right
in this until that part where Batman then his eyes get big, and when he realizes it, that's when I realized it. I was like, oh, he's not protecting
right
him at all. He's just, he really doesn't know. And I think sadly that I figured it out same time Batman did, because of Batman's reactions in that scene.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up about his reactions, because that's really what I appreciate about Pattinson as Batman. He was able to do a lot of expressing of whether it's his emotions or whether it's his thought process when it comes to clues and that sort of thing. You can see it through his facial expressions and the way that his eyes shift. And I really appreciate that this movie was so trusting in particularly his acting, and as well as the story as a whole, to where it's not spoon feeding you exposition dumps or long drawn out over explanations about what's going on, what this clue means, how everything's supposed to connect, and it really lets the audience or it puts trust into the audience to follow along and pay attention. And that's just a really good example of what I really appreciate about Robert Pattinson as Batman.
It was
right,
really
Ken?
a subtle take on Batman, and he really directed the narrative of the scene with just his expressions.
Totally.
I know for Ken that he does not
Top
like
5
that.
Batman crossovers I need in my life. Number 5, The Bat and the Furious.
Okay.
Number 4, Batman, the Western.
Like an 1800s Batman.
Correct.
Okay.
Number 3, Batman versus Rambo.
Okay. Yes.
Number 2, Batman versus Ivan Drago. And number 1, Batman versus Predator.
Ooh, that would be good. I feel like there is a comic that's like that. Batman versus Predator. I wouldn't be shocked.
Oh my gosh. That's what Ken said. After he came out of the movie, he's telling people there's no predators. There's no big knives. There's nothing. There's nothing in this.
Oh, gosh.
There obviously was not enough action for an action-orientated aficionado such as Ken Cruz.
Sure. Stands to reason.
So I do think it made, because of the lack of action, it made the scene like the chase on the car chase even more bigger than I think it really was, because there was just such a limited amount of it. It did make the scene one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie, and I told you this last week, was the extended cut of him fighting his way through the hallway with the machine guns, just illuminating. That whole sequence was so well done. It was so awesome to see.
There are so many good shots in this movie, and it was especially nice for me because I feel like a lot of movies nowadays don't really know how to light the films well.
Yeah.
Especially in like dark scenery. So with this movie taking place, entirely at night in the rain. It does such a great job at still keeping like that nightmare, vengeful suspense element of Batman, but still being able to, see what's going on. And and especially comes into play with, the few action scenes that there are. But to me, the action scenes really hit.
Now, do you have any negative feelings, like anything that you were disappointed by, or any criticisms?
I would understand the runtime being long. I mean, I'm very biased in that this is the type of movie I was wanting, so I never felt the runtime, but I could understand other people feeling it more than I would, especially because it's a more intentionally slower paced movie. So yeah, I'm sure they probably could have trimmed it down, and I don't need every movie to be 3 hours long, obviously. So I perfectly would have been fine if, they did shorten up that runtime.
Yeah, my name's Kyle. My biggest weakness is I have no weaknesses.
No,
The runtime is your biggest complaint. That's not even a real complaint.
No.
I didn't like that it was PG-13.
I have 2 big complaints.
Yeah, go for
one
it.
along the runtime issue. I felt that opening sequence where he's doing the voiceover, he's like, I can't, which is a little cheesy, and it did take me a second to get into his gritty voiceovers.
I have vengeance.
I think they should have chosen whether to keep it or not, because it's only at like the beginning and the ends.
It's only a couple spots.
Exactly.
Like you either need to like really play into it or not. But
yeah, I agree.
I did get into it after a while, but the first part I was like, oh my gosh, they're totally going for that detective. The streets are gritty. I can't be everywhere all at once. All I can do is be in the shadows. Like that whole thing. I was like, oh, okay. But that sequence where he's talking about that, how he can't be everywhere, and then they show 3 like crime options taking place: somebody robbing a bank, somebody gonna rob a convenience store, and then the hoodlums on the train.
Right.
I just thought they panned to those 3 sequences too many times. Like, introduce each one and then pick it, and then that would have taken like maybe 5-10 minutes off of off the whole sequence. Like, there are little moments like that you really didn't need, that I think could have been trimmed.
Yeah.
That was my first criticism. That's the one that stands out for me. My second was in the story. It was so centered. The one clue that he kept coming up was this renewal, which is this huge $1 billion grant that Bruce Wayne's father implemented for his own mayoral run. And then when he was assassinated before he got to be elected mayor, all the crooks and everybody used it just to embezzle a bunch of money and stuff. So it really increased corruption big time. It did the opposite effect of what it wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because that was such a huge part of the story, and it was a part that was linking all of these clues together, and they kept saying renewal. For me, I felt like the ending of the movie should have been him meeting with the accountants, which he had been avoiding the whole movie, and taking back that fund and taking back his company as a way to be the hope of the future.
Bruce Wayne.
As Bruce Wayne. Yeah, he needed to step up into the Bruce Wayne role, because part of what Riddler was getting at was the sins of the father, and he was like devastated to learn this. Well,
Right.
do something about it. Take back. You could have met with accountants, and you could have taken this back at any point.
Yeah, just like the end of Batman Begins, which we will get to in my top 5 Batman movies later.
Right. So I
Yeah.
needed that as a good wrap up to this story that was created. I feel like that was an element in his character progression that they missed out on, so that they could have this extended scene of him leaving Catwoman.
It was
Sure,
weird how
sure.
he never played Bruce Wayne in the movie.
Not really. There was like only that one scene at the church where he was, quote, Bruce Wayne in anybody's eye.
To me, it was a Bruce Wayne where he just doesn't want to be Bruce Wayne. Like
Yeah.
him being Bruce Wayne is harder than being Batman.
I gotta be Bruce Wayne again. I gotta be a billionaire with no responsibilities.
But that's kind of Riddler's point. He's like, oh, boo-hoo, Bruce Wayne has
Right.
to show up to things while, I'm getting eaten by rats as an orphan child.
Yeah,
So
and I wanted him
I
to
appreciate
to
them
step
going that
up
route.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's coming.
I needed him to do that in this film. At the
You wish it
end.
could have been done at the end then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
top 5 non-Batman, Batman adjacent movies. Number 5, Catwoman. Yeah,
For reasons.
there's not a good list here. I don't have an excellent list here. Should have thought this one over.
Show Gotham, number 4.
Well, while Ken's thinking
Trying to
about
find
that,
other movies.
I would say the final act where it's the climax and Batman has to battle the other Riddlers who are going to shoot at the new mayor while the town's being flooded. I did think while it was cool, it was a little bit anticlimactic because we caught the Riddler. And so at that point, it's like, oh, and I also did this other thing. And it's like, it's cool. Like the action is cool and I love the intensity of it, but I felt like maybe workshop it a bit
Right.
more because something about it just doesn't quite hit as well as I would hope for it. It's still cool, but that I could agree with.
Number
Probably needed
4,
to be
Birds of
worked.
Prey. Number 3, Suicide Squad 1. Number 2, Suicide Squad 2.
Okay.
Number 1, The Joker.
Okay.
Oh, there
he,
you go.
He got
You've
there.
got a list.
He got
without having
there.
used Gotham,
I
the
could only
TV
think
show.
of 5.
Better than me. You said Catwoman. I was like, what else is there? But
All right. I've only got 2 lists left. So
Okay.
we have the top 5 Batmans and top 5 Batman films.
Okay, well, hold on.
Okay.
We'll get to your lists.
Oh, are you guys done yet?
No, not done.
Oh my god, it's like the end scene after I woke up where where the stadium floods and it's flooding and then it takes a half an hour for Batman to pull people out of the flood and then he sits on top of the Superdome a la Hurricane Katrina and just airlifting people out. It's like, yeah, we get it. That's what you do when a city's flooded.
Yes, but he finally helped the people, not just
Yeah.
beat up the bad guys.
my
It's
God.
symbolism.
He figured out he had to be a beacon of hope, not just
More than
a
just
hand of
vengeance.
vengeance.
A beacon of hope with eye black on.
Yeah.
Hey,
I always feel
he
hopeful
looked
when I
menacing.
have the maximum amount of eye black on.
Oh, Keaton had that stuff too, and Affleck did too, right? I
No,
don't-
they didn't use eye black. You saw like the around their eyes.
they
That
did
was
for
part of it.
Keaton's.
No.
I doubt that.
Ken
No, I just
rewatched them.
watched it last night so I
No
could get some
way.
decent
No joke.
Batman in my
I
life.
was like, what
I
are
mean,
you
well, I'm glad that
watching?
you rewatched them, but I bet they used eye makeup.
No, I'm sure I'm positive there's makeup on every inch of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But not in the mask. It shows the whole around. Like, if you cannot tell any of these people are who they are, like, I'll interact with this person every day, and then, oh my gosh, who is this person in a mask with the exact same chin and eyes and
Yeah, same voice and
slightly modulated voice? I'm just gonna introduce myself to Kyle in a different voice.
Yeah.
Hello, Kyle. He's like, who's that guy?
yeah, on the phone. Who the
Well,
heck
to
could
be
this
fair, we have 3 gentlemen in the office, and now people can't tell who they're talking to. Like,
Right.
this is is this Ken? Is this Drew? Who is this?
Right.
They just don't know who they're talking to sometimes because they all sound like men on the phone. So I guess you could probably modulate your voice and people would be like, that sounds weird.
Yeah,
You
but
could be
not
Batman.
in person while you're saving them on a guy line while you're while you're swinging them to safety.
At that point, you might be able to pick up between
yeah,
the differences.
I would think that person, especially in a lot of these movies where it's someone that they've shared an evening with, would I don't know, have the same tick, wear the same aftershave, something.
Maybe.
Where's Beard Man at this point too? That's the other thing I wanted to ask.
This Axe body spray smells familiar.
If there was ever going to be a Batman with a beard, it needed to be Robert Pattinson, like with the 5 o'clock shadow.
I would have been okay with that.
Just a full beard, and then people don't recognize him later.
Yeah.
I bet you if Ben Affleck continued, we would have seen a bearded Batman eventually.
Yeah, and with Coors Lights in his utility belt.
Of course. Still Boston at heart.
One of my favorite characters in this was
Is that
Penguin.
a Sam Adams?
Was Penguin. I loved the car chase scene where he's like, I got you. And then the
So
car
good.
comes out. That is such, I like giggled during that part. I was like, yeah.
No,
It was-
he killed it.
Yeah, it was such a good scene. And I think one reason I appreciated him so much is because I think he had more lines than Robert Pattinson. I think he spoke more words on screen in that 3 hours than
Well,
Robert Pattinson
this Batman
did.
broods a lot, so
Yeah,
it
so
makes
much brooding.
sense.
There was barely any language for him. Like,
But we know about this character through his eyes, Cody.
I know it's all through his eyes because it was not through dialogue.
Right.
I guess he had more voiceover
Then
dialogue.
Penguin. There wasn't a voiceover for Penguin, so
Right.
there you go.
Well, I think if you add the voiceover dialogue with his actual dialogue, he maybe came out ahead.
It
But,
just squeaked by.
but Penguin was such a talker that
Yeah.
they even made him waddle in it.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed him so much. I was so glad. And there was no way you could tell that was Colin Farrell.
No, I had buddies come out and they were like, wait, that was Colin Farrell? Like, yeah.
More than just the makeup, just the voice, everything.
No,
you
correct.
Just could not.
But my question
see
is,
it.
what is the purpose? What is
I
the
know.
purpose of having
You
Colin
said anybody
Farrell?
could have been in that
One,
role.
HBO Max spinoff show. And
Yeah.
two, I think it is world building to a degree. Because I kind of
it's
like
fun.
that we were showing characters like Catwoman and Penguin who are a part of the mystery, but aren't like the bad guys that you have to take down at the end of the movie.
Agree with all of that.
Right.
But Colin Farrell is known for being an Irish actor.
Right.
So they made him an Italian actor, or give him an Italian accent.
Irish adjacent
And then,
now.
yeah, meaning that they're both countries in Europe. and then they put so much makeup on him, you couldn't tell who it was. So it could have been anyone.
You know,
I'm-
and he's a very
Yeah.
handsome man, and it's like you didn't play up on any of his strengths. But I liked that. I thought he's still
No, but it
he's
could
still a
have been-
great actor, and he still pulled off that role.
I'm sure Farrell is fine with it too. He was probably like, this sounds like a blast.
well,
Yeah.
the check cashes. I mean, he made Voyagers, guys.
Hey, we all have to.
Warner Brothers
One
has,
for the paycheck, one for the art.
Warner Brothers has deeper pockets than Lionsgate.
Right.
What else? What was the last few things I liked? I did like Catwoman, although she is so tiny. I just have a hard time. If it wasn't for the moves that she did, like I just don't believe that her punch would hurt anything. Like,
Was that a strong breeze
Yeah.
that just graced my face?
yeah.
Oh no, it was a 76-pound cat person fighting me.
I find those things a little hard to believe, but she did so good in all the other parts of being that character.
Yeah, I would agree. I also particularly liked Commissioner Gordon. I really liked how he worked with Batman and was really like
Well, he
almost
was-
a dynamic duo of
Wasn't
sorts.
he just Detective Gordon in this?
Or-
He was
yeah,
not
yeah.
even chief, not commissioner. He was low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, still well respected, but
Yeah.
low man on the
I
totem
liked
pole.
that dynamic too.
Yeah, there was clearly a partnership, but they weren't afraid to like tell each other how it was.
Yeah.
Like
But-
there was still conflict at times.
So I liked how it's a story of a young Batman, but not an origin story of a Batman. We
too.
have an established Batman because we all know who Batman is. We don't need another origin story on
Yeah.
it. But unless we do the 1884 like Batman,
There's
then
something there.
We might need an origin story there.
We
Top
could sell
5
that.
Batman films of all time.
Let's do it.
Number 5, Batman the movie, 1966.
I love it.
Number 4, Batman Returns.
Okay.
Number 3, Batman Begins. Number 2, The Dark Knight Rises. Number 1, The Dark Knight.
Wow, Dark Knight Rises beats out Batman Begins, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Wow. Okay. I would put Batman Begins before Rises.
I think I've seen out
that's
of
when Christian Bale plays Fat Man instead of Batman.
out of
He has his shirt off a couple of times during that movie, and you're like, no, I don't think so.
He got there. He To be fair, the poor guy is going skinny, fat, skinny. He was changing his body.
Yeah, they're like, be athletic, and he's like, oh, fat, okay.
Ooh, so close. So close that time.
Out of all the, what's crazy is I still haven't seen all the Christopher Nolan movies in their entirety.
No, I can believe that, Cody.
Cody, of course we can believe that. We did the AFI 100 list, and you were like batting 12.
Go back to earlier episodes of this podcast, and you'll hear me go, "What? You haven't seen it?" And now it's just old.
Makes
like
sense.
I know.
The sky is blue.
But
Cody
what
hasn't
I
seen
have,
Dark Knight. We
Water
know.
weighs 8 pounds a gallon.
Yeah, no, but what
Cody
I
has
have
not seen the movie that we're
I
talking
still
about.
really enjoyed this movie more. I think it's not
What?
like I've not seen those.
You can't say that.
Yeah, I can.
You can.
You can, but it's
Right.
not
wrong.
correct.
The sky is purple.
My world.
See, this game's easy.
I enjoyed this Batman more. I was
Than a movie
more-
that I've never actually seen in totality.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reactionary people that are like, well, now this movie has to be the best movie ever. And it's
Oh.
like, you don't have to say that, guys. It's really
No.
good, but
It's not the best ever.
no, I mean, it's definitely like in my top 5 for sure, but
It's in your top 5 movies of all time.
no,
for
I mean
sure?
Batman movies.
Oh, Batman movies.
Right.
I would hope so. I mean, there's not like that many of them. And some of them are very bad.
There's been stinkers.
What's a stinker one?
I mean,
What do you mean?
Batman and Robin?
Actually, after rewatching it, the Batman Robin was like a full-on comic book movie, short of like the POWs and the things springing up from Batman 89 with Michael Keaton. Is they really wanted Jack Nicholson and they really wanted Michael Keaton.
Yep.
And it was really a late 80s, early 90s movie.
It is dated and it is glorious.
It dated. It doesn't make any sense. They use the same 3 set pieces for the entire movie. Like they keep all of the action in Gotham, which is the largest city in the world in the universe, happens in front of a theater. In this movie, in this 2-hour movie, people only get killed in front of this theater.
It's a
which
dangerous block.
Which is well, that's the case because you turn around and you're at City Hall.
Oh, it's
This
right
is-
there.
This is where everything happens. I mean, this is where Bruce Wayne's parents died. Everything happens in this one square block.
And it's amazing. Plus, Prince does the music. Come on.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Which was surprising. Like you don't see that anymore. Like I
No.
knew that Prince did the theme song, but I didn't realize he did the whole score and everything.
Right.
So looking at that, like we had Kendrick Lamar that did Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh,
that
you're
doesn't
right.
happen that often that they just
No.
short of like I was thinking like the biopics, but those are still scored by someone else and
Right.
they fit the music in to make it work. But this was like, that's only the second time that I can think of somebody that's like,
I feel like there's another one, but it's not coming to me
it's
right
not,
now.
it's not
But
a
it is
common
very,
occurrence.
very
Yeah.
rare.
They're like, yeah, just score this entire
That
movie.
it's not
Right.
done by a professional.
famous musician.
Yeah, they did that. They did that a lot back then, but it's definitely much more rare these days. One more question about this movie. What did you think of the kind of sort of Joker reveal?
Well, I think they purposely made it ambiguous so that because they didn't come out and say Joker.
Right.
And then they said, riddle me this. And then, they had a few things. And then they had hair that looked more like Two-Face. So I feel like they made it super ambiguous so that it could have been, they weren't pigeonholed into it being a Joker. Although I think everybody's leaning towards that. But I think they just left it open-ended. All you know is that there's a psychotic bad guy that the Riddler is perhaps going to team up with, or that might be the baddie moving around. People only think it was Joker because he said, you're on top and then you become a clown.
Yeah.
But he could have been. He also said, riddle me this, which was Riddler's
But
famous
that's
line.
the joke. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just making stuff up.
But they got the guy, I can't say his last, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, Barry Keogh.
Barry Keoghan,
Kogan?
Keoghan, something
Yeah.
like that.
He was in Eternals.
Right.
I think he's weird looking. So just personally, I would,
The one time they get an Uggo and it's the right casting, huh?
yeah. And I'm like, this might work. His eyes are very close together.
Yeah. if it is Joker, I hope that it's a few years down the line before we actually get that character.
Another
because
iteration of Joker.
yeah, I'm just ready to see other characters mostly, but
Me too.
time will pass and he'll show up as Joker probably, and I'll probably be over it by then.
I
but
was kind of hoping for a Two-Face, like a new Two-Face character.
I'm sure it could be Two-Face, could be, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of characters to choose from,
Yeah,
so a
that,
lot
that-
of choices.
That was kind of what I was. Maybe it was just my hope seeing crazy Two-Face hair into it, but then when I watched Ken was what were you watching? You were watching one of the Batmans, and it was, or we watched a scene where it was Jim Carrey's Riddler, and then Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face comes in, and the hair was so similar. I was like, oh, I hope that character is Two-Face.
They brought back that wig specifically for this.
That would be awesome.
Harvey Dent in 80, I should have done the Harvey Dent list, but Harvey Dent in Batman 89 was played by Lando Calrissian.
Yep.
Which is,
What could have been?
yeah, which is crazy.
That probably would have been crazier than Tommy Lee Jones as
Yeah.
Two-Face.
Well, if you had a list of what it's, who played it in the Christopher Nolan ones? Aaron, what's his face?
Aaron
Eckhart.
Eckhart.
Yeah, if you had that list of those three guys, Billy D. Williams, Tommy Lee Jones, and Aaron Eckhart. Now, what did these characters all play? Like a sheriff? like a wise older character? Like it was not Two-Face.
Castings are wild once they get to the peak of their celebrity.
All right,
When you look back
top 5
on it.
Batmans.
Okay.
Number 5, Robert Pattinson.
He made the list. Okay,
Wow.
I will take that.
Number 4, Michael Keaton. Number
Oh.
3, Adam West.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
happy. I'm fine with that.
Number 2, Ben Affleck.
Really?
I was
Number one,
surprised
Christian
he wasn't
Bale.
your number one.
Wow. I was expecting Ben Affleck at 1,
Yeah, me too.
but still a good list though. I just
Yeah.
appreciate Pattinson
No,
being
he's the most
invited.
Batman of the Batmans. But Christian
Yeah.
Bale did the best job.
I could see that. Yeah.
And I didn't want to put Pattinson on the list, but I was not going to put George Clooney on the list.
What about Val Kilmer?
I was not going to put Val
Yeah.
Kilmer on the list.
Boy, you really could have.
See,
Final twist of the knife.
When you say Batman's, my mind still goes to Clooney and Val Kilmer. Like those for some reason, because
What?
maybe those
You
are the
grew up with
Batmans
them.
of my childhood.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
The only one film Batmans.
Yeah.
It's like I immediately go, greatest presidents of all time. I'll take one-term
But
presidents
when
for
you
$500.
say when you say Michael Keaton, I think of the Penguin character, Danny DeVito's Penguin. That somehow that character stuck with me.
Well, he
I mean-
definitely made Michael Keaton look taller,
yeah.
which was a nice thing. It helps when your
And all the-
villain is 4'10".
Hey,
And
it
all
was
the big
one of
penguins waddling out that are like bombs and stuff.
Batman Returns is a wild movie and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like one of the few Tim Burton movies I actually like just because it's not bad at all, but it still is awesome for some
No,
reason.
you can tell Tim Burton was really going through like a dominatrix phase at that point in his life. He's like, this is a new thing.
At
love
that
this.
point of his life, more like all of his life.
Well, you would think so, but they never, tied up anybody in Pirates of the Caribbean or.
Right. What did he do a Pirates movie?
I thought he was a producer. I thought that
Oh,
was his
I mean,
thing.
probably.
But he never did it like Alice in Wonderland didn't have these weird
No, I
This isn't
suppose. I suppose not. I'll
No.
give you that then.
Willy Wonka never put somebody in a leather catsuit.
No, but he put
There's
somebody in the
deleted
weird
scenes.
dentist headgear thing that was creepy.
You haven't seen The Dark Knight, but you saw that.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. I didn't like how they
Oof,
had the
oof is
Oompa
right.
Loompa was the same guy, just multiplied. I like how the
Yeah.
Oompa
Well,
Loompas
I-
of the original Willy Wonka were all individual.
I think it's only fitting that since you failed at projecting that Batman was going to make more than $100 million,
Yeah.
that Kyle select a Batman film for you to watch.
Oh.
Should I make it The Dark Knight? Because I can't do
Makes
like
me sad.
I can't do like I
That's
can't
why
do like
I'd
Batman and
avoid it.
Robin because she already grew up with it.
No,
and she
because
likes it.
because I'll talk through it because I know every one of Arnold's one-liners.
That's true. What if I
Your
did?
heart will freeze.
What if I did '60s Batman? Do you think she'd go for it?
Yeah, with Cesar Romero, that would be fun.
All right, I'll choose that one.
You know I hate old movies.
You're lucky that I'm
I
not
know.
choosing The Dark Knight.
Thank you.
though,
so-
Don't
so-
traumatize me with Dark Knight.
Just wait until
All
the
right.
helicopter scene with the shark repellent.
Cinema. It's peak cinema, and it's awesome.
Okay.
There is so little distance in filmmaking between Batman 66 and Batman 89. It's like
Right.
very close to the same movie. And then you go from Dark Knight Rises to this newest Batman. You're like, this is not the same sport we're playing here. This is an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ticking clock. There's no.
The history is fantastic with Batman, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the most American things we have.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the character that's being re-envisioned the most in cinema?
Ooh.
I think so.
I guess.
You would think so. I mean, it's always whenever somebody who's going to don the cowl next, like
Right.
it's a whole thing.
Right.
I mean, they're not. You can't replace, even though they'll try.
Besides, it
to
may be
replace
U.S. president character.
Indiana Jones, Star Wars. I mean, they try to reboot these things
Yeah.
and change the main characters. I mean,
We've got Batman. We got
Rocky.
U.S. president.
yeah, Rocky with Creed. I mean, they've tried to do this. It's not the same thing.
I mean,
But Batmans are always like,
Right. I think
the awareness numbers
What
we're
about-
seeing shows that Batman is still extremely prominent.
we don't have any Marvel films that I think compare. They
No.
all are on their first iterations, really, like the first major iterations. I know there was like an old campy Captain America movie, but Iron Man's only ever been,
closest?
in my book, Robert Downey Jr.
The closest one is the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah,
Because there's
Yeah.
been
there's been
several
multiple
different
Hulks.
Incredible Hulks.
I mean, I would also think James Bond would be like the most, but I'm not sure if you're talking about like American
But he's British.
characters
He's
No,
or
British,
just
yeah.
characters in general.
James Bond is
In
probably
cinema.
been way more
in
James
cinema,
Bond
then I
films.
would say James Bond.
Yeah.
We should count. We should do it.
There's way more
more
James Bond.
There's
There's
way more-
25 James Bond films.
And there's probably been like
But
what?
there's not
7?
been 25 James Bonds.
No, there's probably been like what, 7, 8?
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, correct.
And Batman's just been like in theatrical releases, 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's not a
You're right.
ton.
Yeah.
But James Bond has also been around. Like there was Batman in 66 and then it went to 89. It was almost
Yeah.
it was 2 full
Right.
decades
No one
later.
was. Yeah. No one was
They
making
were
those
cranking out
movies.
James Bonds every 18 months back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many James Bond movies.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I would say that's probably the one that trumps it, but Batman might not be too far behind.
That's weird to think that there's something that spans so long in cinema history that is so different, and maybe even if you look back, you could see it resemble the times that it comes out in. You know.
Cody,
how
would
that's
you rather be
changed.
James Bond or Batman?
Oh,
Her
Batman.
decisiveness. She said, "Oh, I know this answer." And then she's like,
No. It's a good question. Let me think about that. Batman, because I would be a billionaire and I would get cool gadgets, and there is like an artillery of other characters where James Bond's more of like a spy on his own, and I like the idea that I have more support.
Oh, yeah.
And I would be a billionaire. I would like that.
I would like that.
The money.
Yeah. And okay, I will say James Bond's manor house in this movie, because it looked like a Gothic cathedral, was so much better. Like I really want his house from this last movie. Oh my god. Too. That may have swayed me.
Ken's like, I regret this question.
Next up on cinematic interior design.
Yeah. That'll be a whole podcast topic. What cinema houses do I want to live in?
Well, we're taking next week off, guys, for spring break here.
Yeah, we're going to be out in the desert, getting out of the snow for spring break.
Have fun.
It literally snowed today. It snowed today, people. I need a break.
But
I get it.
We'll see you back the last Friday of March.
Just in time for Lost City.
Oh my gosh, I'm very excited for Lost City. We're going to go to early show.
Nice.
We're going to get adult beverages, sneak them into the movie, and we're going to go because they don't serve them here.
Which is a real shame.
Real shame.
All right.
God. Get us out of here, Kyle.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode. We will see, or not see you guys, but you will be hearing us in 2 weeks. So please just like and subscribe to our podcast channels on Facebook and Instagram, and also make sure to subscribe to us on all podcast platforms.
Oh, and if you want to, let us know in the comments what you thought about Batman, because this was really fun, and it was weird to have Ken hate something that I liked. So let us know your thoughts on it.
Okay, I'm switching. Christian Bale number 2, Ben Affleck number 1.
I knew it!
knew it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.